The whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happening.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendenhall, he said he could make
Don't
it.
dig this hole. Phil, credit to the guy, he always manages to do well what he has, but he is a shocking person on that. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-event.
No, my life from Rashad Mendenhall.
Right, you go. Cancel. I'm a tag, Jack. I'm a fucking tag.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report. We're back again for a new season. Oh, that was Alexa. Alexa's excited for the new LOC season, clearly, as we are, and definitely as Chris is as well, who's joining us again. How's it going, Chris?
Very well, yes. So we are back for yet another season. I lose track of how many there are now. But quite a few.
Yes.
So, yes, just saying. And this season, well, it's all changed. Say the as you can see, the background has changed for me this year. You know, so gone is the last few years.
Yep.
So you know, it's all good, and we have new people in the league as well, which is again another extremely good thing to do.
Definitely. Yeah, we love new blood. It always changes things up a bit, doesn't it? Yeah, it's going to be another fantastic LOC season to look forward to. And we won't delay any further, especially because, well, you know what? Let's get to the league news, shall we, Chris? We've not had an in-season league news for a long while now, have we?
Let's.
Yeah, all right. Here we go. The league news. Of which there is not much, since we obviously did a podcast with you last week, and then it's only really been little bitty things since then, so we'll just cover those off. So Kyle Pitts has popped up today with a hamstring injury for the Dream Team, where the fantasy season is officially here. This is made especially perfect, in my opinion, Chris, because he was auto-drafted this tight end. The room was going to riot unless we gave him a tight end, and the tight end we gave him now was a hamstring injury.
Good, absolutely. And that is the penalty you get for auto drafting, just for being, you know, going around the world and having a great time, and just, you know, not factoring that you need to do a fantasy draft halfway through your travels. I mean, you know, so a one hamstring tight end is exactly what you get as a result of that, and that's what's happened here.
Yeah, basically. And I believe Viv is watching, or at least he seemed to indicate he will be watching from Doha, of all places. So I see we have one other viewer. So go on, Chris.
Well, congratulations. Yeah, I mean, say Viv must be. I'm not sure where he's travelling to next. I presume it's home.
The moon.
The moon. I
yeah.
mean, hopefully, I know Qatar's quite good for things like that, but possibly that's even beyond the realms of Qatar at the moment. But having said that, I don't think that will make a massive difference to the Dream Team's roster, to be quite honest, because it was relatively strong already, and yes, having a hamstring go pop at the moment is not going to be title deciding, shall we say?
No, yeah. I was going to say, so we are up to 4 viewer count now, one of which must be my iPad, but even still, so hello, the few listeners we have, please do comment along if you'd like to through the show, and we'll try and interact with you. The next piece of news I had here was Hollywood Brown. He's been ruled out for Ixan for tomorrow night's opening game. He wasn't expected to play anyway, so no surprise to Ben or the Chiefs, so don't really need any analysis on that one, I think. We have had a few transactions. A couple of guys have gone on IR, and Pat swapped his defense, but nothing too notable, so we're just going to mosey on past that as well. Check out power rankings when they land. I need to message Tom actually, but I presume Tom will be doing power rankings in the first instance, if not to be covered by one of us this season, so they'll be there at some stage, I'm sure. And in the other category, I thought this was noteworthy. We have a new team name in the league, which I just want to call out particularly. I'm sure, have you seen this, Chris? No, he didn't put it in the chat. He alluded to it, but you don't know what this is. Okay, so Ollie Garden Meadows is no longer your gold. Robbie Gold has, I think he's retired, hasn't he? Robbie Gold has retired, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He must. Yeah, he didn't play for.
I'm going to go as far as saying.
Yeah. Let's go with that. So, yeah, you do that while I do this and try not to crack up, because in honor of Harrison Butker, Ollie Gardner Meadows has renamed his team Wren's Kitchens.
Well, there we go.
Complete with the Wren Kitchen logo.
Of course. Of course.
We don't need to spell that out for you listeners. Like for me, I looked at it for a second. I was like, "Huh?" And then the penny dropped, and I was sweating myself.
Yeah.
Supreme.
Yep.
So well
Robbie Gould is a former American football player as well. So
there you go. So
there you go.
Official retirement.
He is though. I'm gonna say probably now. Robbie Gould has been around this particular fantasy league for some time, so is certainly he's in the LOC Ring of Honor for sure.
Yes, definitely,
and certainly the Ollie Gardner-Bellows team once was Cash for Gold, then was You Are Gold, and now is no longer anything gold.
No, now he's a misogynist.
So, well, that's not Ollie Gardner-Bellows isn't a misogynist.
No. To be clear, Ollie Gardner-Bellows himself is not the misogynist.
Nor is Robbie Gould.
No. Well, as far as we know, anyway, we don't know him, but one would assume. So yeah. Tom said the power rankings will be tomorrow, probably. By the way, so that's good news. Thank you, Tom, who commented. Well, he doesn't have a YouTube account, but he messaged me on Facebook, so he is also listening. Hello, Tom. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the news. So we may as well get to debate corner again. No, nothing really has happened since last week, but I just like playing the jingle, so we're going to do a quick debate corner. So here we go. John, would you usher us into the corner, please?
Order.
Thank you, John. John's still in America, I presume. He's getting ready to watch the Chiefs against Baltimore, I imagine.
I assume he is. I think, so he's obviously gone to warmer climates to escape the lack of winter fuel payment to pensioners.
I wonder if he's having dinner with Farage as we speak. Who knows? He's still out there, right?
Well, he shouldn't be. He should be.
No, he's got a job to do now.
Practicing on sea.
Yeah. But well, there we are. Right. Anyway, debate corner for this week is. So we obviously talked about our favourite team, worst team, least favourite team, all that jazz last week. I'm going to put this debate question to you though, Chris. Has anyone's team changed significantly in your opinion since the draft / last episode? And that could be either by way of just your opinion changing or some player news. Like obviously we've had some guys sign contracts, we've had some guys still not sign contracts. That is the debate corner topic for this week.
I mean, we saw some very, very spotty teams last night. I say that in the sense that there were some guys who were a bit sketchy with injuries. I think this is probably a question, to be honest with you, that needs to be asked after week one because it's very difficult.
True.
Yeah, say in the however many days it's been, 6 since we last did one of these. To have changed my opinion a great deal because not a lot has genuinely happened.
No.
So I'm going to say, ask me again next week, and I will have a definitive answer for you. But really, my opinion going into week one remains pretty much the same.
Sure, that's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, broadly, I would agree. Whoever got Ben, I slightly view that better now with the news of the CD contract for his quarterback Dak Prescott, and equally, I can't remember who the CD owner is, but whoever's got CD, those kind of things, obviously, it marginally go on. Oh, it's right there, Pat does.
I'm just trying to remember who it was.
Yeah, we don't recollect such things. Not so early in the season anyway, maybe after week 5 or something. Yeah, those kind of guys, obviously, yeah, you look at them slightly better now, and obviously some guys that might have been sitting out like Jalen Waddle as well and Tyreek, for an injury, and now they're obviously the season is here, they are actually back practicing and stuff like that. So, like you say, there's marginal tweaks, but as you say, nothing too substantial. So, yeah, that was the debate this week, and clearly we're both of the same mind that, yeah, obviously not a lot has changed, but it's always a good question to ask. But with that out of the way, the other news point is, yes, as well, not related strictly to the LOC, but there will be a new fantasy show that we'll be recording after this one, Chris. It will not be live, but it will be posted hopefully at some point today. So if not, you'll be able to listen to it after that. Anyway, so watch this space for the LOC Fantasy Show. But with that, we'll just get straight on to the previews, Chris. So we have 6 games to choose from this week. And this will probably be more the form of the LOC report going forward as well. We'll do a little bit of a recap of a general week stuff and the news and bits and bobs, but we'll focus more on the previews and have a bit of a shorter format, hopefully. The games we have for you this week, though, Chris, we have Gridiron Gang versus Bucking the Trend, which is the Waypoint Bowl. Or one of the Waypoint Bowls. Strawberry Jamal against Tom's Tyrants, which is a Founder Bowl. Forge Flies against Ixam, which is the Felix Bowl. Great Scott against Ren Kitchens. Oakland Bears against Pakistan, which is obviously Freddie's debut game in the LOC. And Bare Necessities against the Dream Team. Is there any particular leaning you have, Chris, for the marquee matchup this week?
Well, I think so bowl games we tend to prioritise. However, very rarely does this happen that we have somebody making their debut in week 1. So
It's true.
For me, I think let's marquee match up Freddie's debut, because this will never ever happen again.
We hope. Well, not for Freddie anyway.
But for Freddie anyway.
Yeah, sure. Cool. Here we go then. Marquee match for week 1. It's Oakland Bears against Pakistan. The LOC debutant in Freddie and his Oakland Bears side take on Pakistan, out to win their first Corona Bowl in another LOC season here in week 1. The projections have it going in the existing members' favour, 89 to 83 to Pakistan. Taking a look down the lineups, I believe Pakistan, as it was drafted, he's going with the 30 personnel. 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers, it's a pretty explosive team, you would say. Go to the other side of the board for Oakland Bears again, just having a quick scan down here. I believe it is also as it was drafted here, and he is trotting out the 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. No history to talk about in this game, of course. So we'll throw it straight over to Chris, where you can give us the first analysis of the season.
Well, I am looking forward to this game. Now, the reason why I'm looking forward to this game is that I think that Freddie's team is very well set amongst the skill positions. So, you look there, Devontae Smith, Olave, Jonathan Taylor, Marvin Harrison Jr., who I'm really looking forward to seeing, albeit, away at Buffalo, and we see Dalton Kincaid as well, who... whenever someone's got Josh Allen as their quarterback, is always going to be a threat, especially when they're a big-bodied, huge tight end. Plus, the wild card that is Anthony Richardson at home, first game of the season, healthy as you like, playing the Texans. Not going to be quite an entertaining match. So this is a team that intrigues me, if not setting the world alight. But it's an intriguing team with a similar kind of player throughout. For Pat, who, to be fair, has been talking his team up, and I think quite rightly, because there's some explosive nature, but he is relying on Miami being as explosive as last season. You see that throughout the team, with Tua, with Jalen Waddle, with a chain. So you'd hope that they would follow on from. And obviously very, very good first season on offense. Thank you. With an excellent second season, or at least a season that builds on the first in similar ways. And I think playing Jacksonville at home is an ideal start for that.
That game has a profile to be a boat race, potentially. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. So. You look there as well. You see CD Lamb. I don't like CD Lamb against Cleveland. I don't really like Dallas this season, to be honest. So I think that could be a struggle for points there for him. We've seen James Conner every year be as consistent as you like, and cook there in much the same fashion. So I think it could be a bit workmanlike, that team, with the obvious spark that the Miami players bring. But if they don't perform, especially if Tua doesn't perform, I think that there's a bit of an issue there. That team won't be able to catch the points up when you play an opposition which has, again, quite workmanlike skill positions, but a quarterback that could go absolutely nuclear on his own without having to worry about the offense around him. So I think this is going to be a lot closer than people might make out, and certainly the points here. There's a 6-point swing. The defenses, I think, may be the thing that perhaps creates that 6-point difference. Buffalo, Arizona, I like the fact that Buffalo's at home, but I love the fact that New Orleans is at home against Carolina, who, again, not much is expected of them. So, provided that things go the way that they should do, Pat should win. But I don't think that it's going to be as much of a golf as the points suggest. I think that Freddie will have an absolute opportunity to win this, especially if Anthony Richardson, as expected by a lot of people this season, builds upon and shows the promise that he showed last season.
Yeah, no, I think you hit on kind of a lot of the key points there. That the quarterback could be so big here, because the big knock on Tua, which kind of is obviously looking back at last season, but that's all we really have at the moment, is they skewed so much more heavily to rushing touchdowns against passing touchdowns. They were such an explosive and high-scoring offense, but it's because they were running in touchdowns all the time, of which he obviously has Achane, so that's partly fine, although, they're obviously going to mix in the other running backs as well. But yeah, when you're just talking quarterback against quarterback, that's a bit of a problem. If that's going to repeat, we'll see if there might be some positive regression. We don't know. But Jalen Waddle is also a potential issue with that as well, because again, we saw that Tyreek Hill absolutely dominated the receiving work share last year. Waddle was still good, but he wasn't great. He's obviously been carrying some sort of injury as well, but he's going to be good to play. And then you have CeeDee Lamb, who, yes, he signed his contract, but he's obviously not been practicing for much of the summer. We typically see with guys like that, when that happens, they have a bit of a slow start. You're a lot more confident on the Saints defense than I am against Carolina, by the way, because I know Carolina was an absolute dumpster fire last year, but they have a new coach now in Dave Canales, who, he coaxed a really good season out of Baker Mayfield. He also revived Geno Smith when he was in Seattle. Bryce Young was the first overall pick for a reason, so I'm not going to throw him to the trash bin straight away. I'm willing to see if he... You're doubting.
That entire franchise, you talk about dumpster fires, that entire franchise from the top, and it comes from the top because David Tepper is a joke.
He is a joke, yeah.
Down is it's just dysfunction personified.
But so are the Saints at the moment. They're no better. That is a barren team. That offense profiles to be pretty garbage as well, potentially. So both these teams have issues. So I don't think I could see any scenario where Carolina blow out the Saints, they get blown out, it's a close game, it's a boring, anything in between. So I'm just not as confident in them. The Bills I do like more, and like you say, I think with Oakland Bears, there's a bit more safety there. There's less question marks there. So for that, yeah, I'm gonna go with Oakland Bears for this one. But like you say, it wouldn't entirely surprise, because if Achane blows up and Tua can throw a couple of touchdowns and Waddle gets one, you're fine. But yeah, that's where I'm saying. Okay, injury wise, so yeah, I don't think there's anything these guys need to worry about injury wise, not in the starting lineup at least. So yeah, we'll just mosey on to our next game, which is Bare Necessities against the Dream Team. Some existing teams in the LOC take on each other here. Benicessi's against the Dream Team, looking to get their season off on the right foot. Of course, we have one of these teams auto-drafted with Viv's team, but he is also the current champion. How could I forget to write that down in the notes? Well, at least I remembered for the preview. Looking down the lineup, so for the Dream Team, it's very much as it was auto-drafted for him at the moment, so he's rolling out the 10 personnel. 1 running back and 4 wide receivers. I think that's the case anyway. Yeah, pretty sure it is. And then on the other side of the board for Bare Necessities, let's see again. Yep, as she wrote it up, 31 personnel going for some heavy set here. 3 running backs, a tight end, and a wide receiver. The history of this matchup, which I have handily right here. Bare Necessities are 12-10 all time against the Dream Team, so fairly closely contested. Chris, does the champion start the season with another win?
I think that this, certainly for Viv's team, I think it might grow into the season. I look at this team with all of the talent that they have, and there's no doubt that there is talent across the board. You know, you see that there from top to bottom. Lamar, AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Devontae, Najee Harris, Tank Dell. I think that there's, especially for Brown, Garrett Wilson, and Tank Dell, all on offenses that should pop. That there's potential for those receivers to be, especially Brown and Wilson, top tier. Lamar could be, and this could be the season where he goes top tier because everything's around him. Obviously, the question remains is Devontae going to be as dominant as previous? Well, perhaps he doesn't need to be within that particular team because there are three guys and Najee Harris who'll provide a bit of a floor. Probably won't provide as much of a ceiling as you'd like, but certainly a floor. So, yeah, it's a formidable lineup. I'm not going to lie. The only thing that I would say is the Jets are going across the country to play in San Francisco. That profiles to be a challenge. And, yeah, who knows what version of the Steelers may turn up in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Because, we just don't really know what sort of offense we're going to see. No. And if it's a resurgent offense, because it could be, then this is one of those teams that could take us by surprise. They've got a competent quarterback now. They've obviously got a very competent coach. They've always got a competent defense. So nothing's really expected of them too much. I think they're a much better team than certain other teams in their division that are hyped up way more. Mm-hmm. And perhaps Atlanta is a reasonably good place to go for that. So anyway, and we've completely forgotten to mention that Baltimore are playing KC away, and that's always got fireworks. So on the other side, I think that this team, the team that your dad has assembled, has an 89 points potential score, which is...
Sorry, I didn't do the projections. Yeah, they are actually projected to win this one. You're right. Yeah.
They are really rather high, bearing in mind, yes, Josh Allen's playing in Arizona, which again I think is a good start for him, and you can't look past it. And those 3 running backs make a big difference. Henry could be, well, we've seen what Henry can do in Tennessee without any sort of support around him. Mm-hmm. Now he's going to Baltimore, where he's going to have an unbelievable amount of support around him. Again, a competent quarterback, does run, fair play, but he doesn't maybe have to do that as much now, and certainly will be on the goal line all the time. And then Mixon and Montgomery with question marks over them. I think that they're high scores for both of those running backs, to be quite frank, especially Montgomery. Yeah,
I agree. Because, I mean, as the Montgomery owner last season, it was great until he got injured about halfway through the season, because they get to the goal line, he tried out and he'd plunge in a touchdown and he'd get a reasonable amount of yards in the game as well. When it was
that's right. But his touchdown a bust for a guy like that.
But now Gibbs, that was the good times. It was after he got injured and then Gibbs started getting goal line as well. And Gibbs is obviously still an ascending player. His injury happened at about the right time this year that he's practically, I think, probably fully healthy now and probably playing without restriction. And Montgomery loses a lot of his value when he's not guaranteed those goal line touches. So I agree. He definitely needs a touchdown to hit that number.
absolutely. And I think Laporta again at 8 points for a tight end. Yeah, is he good for a touchdown every game? Well, I think that there's a lot of all of a sudden offensive weapons in Detroit. He is one of them, I grant you. But is he good for 88 yards a game, or is he good enough for? I just don't know. So I have my reservations with the scoring on that one. We haven't spoken about Pittman.
He's a tricky one.
Again, is Anthony Richardson going to be running around a lot? Is he going to be? Is he going to be accurate? Is he really going to bring him into play? He got loads of targets last season because again from week 5 onwards, he had someone who was peppering him with targets. This is a different team now. So I think on the face of it, if we're thinking from a completely fancy perspective here, I can't not back Lamar in what could be quite an offensive game. AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers, Tank Dell, who, as you'll find from last season, was revelationary. So I like Viv's team. Again, I think this will be a bit closer than the points projection points suggest. But I'm going to go with Viv's team over Dave's team.
Yeah, we agree on this one. I like Viv's team, like you say. I just think it's a bit more solid. Okay, yes, we don't know exactly what Devontae is going to be this year, but using your argument, Minshew supported Pittman, so I think Minshew can support Devontae Adams. Devontae's a better receiver, so if you account for any change of offensive coaching around Minshew, Devontae can pick up that sack to kind of at least get a similar level of production. Like you say, we don't know what we're going to get out of Harris. It's Arthur Smith. He loves to run the ball. He also loves to use 3 different running backs in Cordero Patterson, but like you say, he should still be okay. Dell has obviously got another mouth in the offense compared to last year, but like you say, he's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal player, as I can attest to, especially. So it's good. I just look at it's a similar argument that I had to the previous game, where I just look at my dad's team and there's just question marks. A lot of them you hit on. Laporta, he's a very good tight end, but like you say, week in week out, he's not necessarily going to have a good game. Mixon's in a new team. We all think he should be the lead back and things, but again, what he has been is a volume based high end RB2, low end RB1. He's another year older. We'll see what he's like in this Texans offense. Henry as well, like you say. There's no way I don't think for the season Henry isn't great, isn't good. But like you kind of touched on it, that he's got more around him now. The offense doesn't need to go through him and be completely ridden on his shoulders. He will not have as much work because I think they're going to try and keep him fresh. Baltimore known better than any team that an injured running back really screws you over on multiple. So even though he is absolutely the lead dog and he will get touchdowns and be in the short yardage situations and things, I think they're going to try and keep him fresh for when they get to January and things like that. You mentioned that the concerns with Pittman, we already talked about Montgomery as well. So I just think there's more clarity with the Dream Team. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the Dream Team takes this one and defies the prediction. So we'll go on to the next game then, which features my team. It is the Waypoint Bowl. It's Gridiron Gang against Bucking the Trend. We got a closely projected one here for the Waypoint Bowl. 90-89 in favour of Gridiron Gang for this week 1 game. Looking down the lineup for Gridiron Gang, it's as they drafted it. 10 personnel, 1 running back, 4 wide receivers. And on the other side of the board for Bucking the Trend, I believe it is the same. They're going 30 personnel this week. 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. Gridiron Gang over here, they are 2-5 all time against Bucking the Trend, so not a great record. Will the record hold true here for this game, Chris?
Well, I think that Mike had a very sneakily solid draft. You look at some of the players that he's managed to acquire there, skill position wise, that is. We see Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs in the past, epitome of solid. Jacobs, Bijan, who let's see what he can really do. But if he ends up being the player that we think he might, this is the thing that takes Mike's team, especially as he's the Patrick Mahomes owner this year, from being pretty good to being very good. And if he managed to hit on value, like Josh Jacobs and potentially with Swift as well, where he ends up with two RB1s and two kind of wide receiver ones as well. And I think that with Cooper, you're probably going to find that he will be, but just not in this matchup, I'm afraid. Then he will be solid. But the problem I've got with this team this week is that some of the matchups here aren't A1. So you see Cooper playing Dallas, which, for all Dallas's faults this year on offense, I think their defense will still be okay. I mean, they've lost the coordinator, but that personnel wise, it's not a great deal of difference. Jacobs playing Philly away. I know that's in Brazil, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a really weird game. We don't really know how that's going to turn out. BJ against Pittsburgh again should be all right, but we just don't know how it's going to go. So the Jets D against San Francisco could just get striped away. There's a lot to look at in there. And Casey playing Baltimore, of course. It should be a high scoring game, but again, week one very fresh, and Baltimore being a bit resurgent than I think more resurgent than they have been in years gone by. Because I think they can actually win it this year. It's going to be a challenge. Whilst on the other side, CJ Stroud has a relatively soft matchup in a divisional game. We talked about the Miami Jacksonville stuff earlier on with Hill and Mostert. I think if we look at looked at Pat's team, who had kind of the other side to this coin with A-Chain and Waddle, I think Hill and Mostert are a slightly better combo with that. You stack Nico Collins with Stroud, which I think is a smart move, and then DJ Moore versus Tennessee and Debo against the Jets. I think is a very solid combination. Plus, the Bengals are going to flatten New England at home.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely knock them out the park. So, for me, I think that the projections are actually going to be right. And I think that Mike's team will be a little bit less than 89. But this team, again, will grow into the season. And if those three running backs can get things going and turn out to be all RB1s, and all quite electric RB1s, and Bijan is the man, then that is going to be a team that's going to be quite formidable, especially with the quarterback they have, just not this week.
Yep, I agree. I'm going to pick my team. I'm going to do more than pick my team. I'm going to vibe the confidence and lock it up here for the first lock of the season. I do like Mike's team. It was just funny while you were going through and talking about the players and stuff. I was just thinking, there is a fair amount of players who are in a changed situation one way or another on his team. You look at Diggs, completely new team. Yes. Jacobs, completely new team. Swift, what's this? Completely new team. Bijan Robinson, completely new coaching staff and quarterback. I'm not saying these is a positive or a negative thing, but change breeds uncertainty. We don't know what we're going to see from some of these guys. We don't know how Diggs is going to fit into this Texas offense. We obviously don't know how Swift's going to perform on the Bears, as the O-line is much worse than it was in Philly, and the offense doesn't necessarily profile to be quite as good either. Could obviously still be a good offense. Bijan, we don't know how this new coaching staff is going to use him comparative to Arthur Smith. Hopefully better for everyone involved, especially Tom, who, if you're still listening. And then Josh Jacobs is the one, though, I think, where you're completely certain he's at least going to get the volume in this team, because he is basically the only healthy running back at this point, which helps. But, it should be a fairly potent offense as well, so I like that. But, yeah, there's just a bit of uncertainty, a bit of unclarity around some of these players. And again, obviously, Bijan's going to be good. I'm talking, is he going to be potential overall number one running back good, or is he going to be just like, solid RB1, maybe high-end RB2 good? You're right about Cooper as well. He profiles to get completely erased by Trayvon Diggs. It could be a difficult week one for the Browns there. And you say my team, like, it's not that I particularly am like, oh my god, my team's amazing. I like my team. I think it's got a good shot of putting up some good points in week one. The one I'm a bit concerned about, the couple of things, is DJ Moore against L'Jarius Sneed. If he follows, I'm not entirely convinced that he will, but we'll see. And again, the Titans, it's not the best defenses even with Sneed on it, as you can certainly attest to, Chris. And Mostert, we obviously don't know how this Miami backfield is going to shake out. We obviously presume it's still going to be split, and there's plenty to go around between Achane, Mostert, and even potentially some of the other guys. And as you say, the Bengals D should just absolutely cream the Patriots. It's going to be funny rooting for that somehow. But anyway, I want the number 1 overall pick, actually. I probably will root for everyone playing the Patriots this year. So. But no, I'll lock my team here. Injury-wise, nothing really relevant to speak about, so we'll skip over that. Instead, we'll just go on to the next game here. Next we have Strawberry Jamal and Tom's Tyrants. And to properly intro this game, I of course need a jingle, of which I'm just finding now. Here it is. We've got a Founder Bowl in week 1 between Strawberry Jamal and Tom's Tyrants, which is projected to go Tom's Tyrants' way, but it's very, very close. Just over 86, and it's just under 86. That's what it works out as. If we look down the lineups for Tom's Tyrants, I think they are still as it was drafted. Oh no, they are not. They are the first team to not be, because they have benched Travis Kelce here. In favour of, I believe, Aaron Jones. So they are going with 30 personnel, 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Strawberry Jamal with the food-based team names this year. He doesn't have a Jamal on the team, slightly disappointing, but we'll forgive you for that. He is going with 30 personnel as well, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. And again, as you would expect with Ross, I believe that is exactly as it was drafted. The history of this matchup all time. Tom's Tyrants are 8-6 all time against Ross's team, so a fairly close one. Ross obviously famously not on the auto draft this year, but my question to you, Chris, does the dice roll of benching Kelce pay off with a week 1 win for Tom's Tyrants?
Oh, and this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, for me, that partnership between Mahomes and Kelce, and the way that Kelce is in that offense these days, is it worth benching him for someone like Aaron Jones, who yet will be in a game, I think, where Minnesota can actually compete with the quarterback they have this year, of course. It's not a give your head a wobble moment, but it's certainly a scratcher, and it might be one of those ones that you kind of want back after the game. For me, this team is it's balanced enough. So I think that Rashad White and Kyron Williams, again, might be one of the more underrated running back duos in the league. I think with St. Brown in there, that's interesting too, because we saw what he could do last year in a competent offense. Mm-hmm. And we see T. Higgins again in a relatively soft matchup once more. And Seahawks D in a relatively soft matchup at home. But Jalen Daniels is a very interesting selection for me, and I think that this is one of the narratives of the season, is that Washington could be one of those teams that just have this bounce back buzz because they've got rid of all of the bad and holding them back for so many years. And now they've got some very competent, as someone who's been in and around Crystal Palace for a while, owners who will just let people do what they need to do to be successful, because that's happened at that club, and this is what's going to happen at the Commanders as well, because they've underperformed because of institutional badness for so long. And this is opportunity for the entire organisation, especially in the offense that's being brought in there by Cliff Kingsbury, that could be very, very exciting and quite underrated to start with. Mm-hmm. And I think that away to Tampa Bay, again, who are middle of the pack, it's an opportunity for him to show what he is. Having said that, there is always that inherent risk with a rookie quarterback that it all just blows up in your face.
Yeah,
and I think that we're going to find that after week 1. But the offensive structure can only help this team because it is so positive. On the other side, there are so many question marks over Ross's team. I think every skill position in there, perhaps with the exception of ETN, might have that. Justin Jefferson, we do not know what he's going to be like without Kirk Cousins. He might not be elite. That entire offense makes it be a complete joke this year.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, they go to the Giants, who are equally in the same position. And I think the week 1 could be okay. But going forward, I'm not quite as convinced about that. We've seen Ayuk's contract stuff, and even then, he's the third best receiver in that team. So, and I say best receiver, behind volume-wise, behind McCaffrey and Debo, and with a bit of George Kittle, it just reduces that pool. Devin Singletary is going to be in an offense that's going to be behind a lot this year. I don't necessarily like that. Ramondre, again, they're going to be out of the game pretty early. I wouldn't worry too much about him. ETN, we talked about that game being quite lively on offense, but will his use be the same as it has been over the last couple of years? Will he now revert back to being one of those classic running backs that we see? He's obviously going to still have plenty of volume, but is that the only thing that's going to really prop this team up this week? Difficult, because Burrow's going to be in a good offensive position, but with T. Higgins on the other side, that could nullify that too. So I think that Tom's Tyrants are going to win this game. They've got all the skill positions. If there's 1 week to test your theory about Kelsey, it might be this one. But going forward, I think we're going to see a bit more of him coming into this team.
This is the benefit of live podcasting that Tom has messaged and said it was just projectional to Phil. Kelsey is playing. Presumably he'd go in over, I suppose if you're looking, it would be probably either Higgins or Jones. I don't think you're benching any of the other guys there. So that probably just further bolsters it. But yeah, no, for me, it's Tom's Tyrants as well. You just look down that lineup, it's just solid as they come. Daniels is the one wild card, but I think he could have at least a solid week 1 in his first start. Like you say, you look at the other side, and there's just a lot of question marks. I think Stevenson, he'll probably get volume, but they've got Antonio Gibson now. If they get blown out, do they take him out of the game? I don't know. I don't really know what you're getting from him. Singletary, I don't really care about the Giants starting running back this year. I don't think anyone does, to be honest.
No.
So apart from Devin Singletary, Ayuk, we don't know how much he's going to play. Presumably he will play, definitely, because he obviously signed his contract about a week ago or something now. But when you set out the entire offseason, as I say, you do typically get a slower start, and they ease these guys back in. And like you say, we don't know what we're going to get from JJ. There's a lot of statistics out there that even generational receivers with garbage quarterbacks and bad offenses, it's a lot for them to overcome. Not to not be, they can still be fantasy relevant. But in terms of talking like being an elite fantasy asset, it's a much different conversation. Like you say, there's been a lot of stuff about Sam Darnold this offseason saying, he's actually quite talented and teams haven't used him the right way, X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. But he's been in the league for years now. It's never been a question of physical talent with him. It's more between the ears and stuff like that. Yes, okay, JJ is the best receiver he will have ever played with for sure. But, he's not going to put up the same numbers you would think that he has done. It's just what scale of how much numbers does he put up, like you say. So yeah, Tom's Tyrants for me as well in this one, for a nice week 1 win. We'll go to our penultimate game of the week now, which is the Felix Bowl Forge Flyers against Texan. The team that wins this one, Felix wins, because one dad wins. It's either his real dad or his god dad, and apparently it's the god dad that's going to win according to the projections. 88-84. Looking down the lineups for Forge Flyers, they are as drafted at the moment, so 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. And on the other side of the board for Ixan, they are also as drafted, I believe. He's going 20 personnel, 2 running backs, and 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Forge Flyers are 14-7. Yeah, count it, 14-7 against Ixan. Chris, are you worried about Jamar Chase this week or not? Because he is not. No, of
course I'm not. No, this is all bluster. It's got to be. He's the best player on that team. There is no way that he or the Bengals can afford for him not to turn up in the first week of the season. Absolutely no way. And especially in that matchup, which is cake. Totally cake. So for my team this year, again, I'm relying on the 3 running backs, 2 receivers, as I would usually have put out. However, these three running backs this year, I am very hot on. And but there comes with inherent downside. I give you that. Obviously, Gibbs could be touchdown vulture in reasonable amount. Walker has not been the most healthy over the last few seasons, but he is absolutely box office. And Kamara's offense isn't great, but he is a big part of that offense. Grants you. I like the Cowboys D this week because I think they're going to go and beat Deshaun Watson up away. I think Zay Flowers is a very. I like Zay Flowers from last season and like how he was used. He's playing KC in hopefully a reasonably open game, so I like that. And then Jordan Love. Jordan Love has. We saw the back end of last season, from a fantasy perspective, was absolutely fantastic for 8 weeks. But I am worried that the first 8 weeks of Jordan Love, especially away in Philadelphia, could rear its ugly head. However, he does have plenty of offensive weapons, and Matt LaFleur is an excellent coach. So, for me, I'm very positive for the first time in a while about this team because there's 3.5 players there that can change a game each week, and Zay Flowers, who is kind of on the cusp of doing that, and the bench is nice. For Ben, he's got all upside in his, and he's certainly looking for it in his skill positions. So we see Metcalf there again. That Seattle team is woefully underrated at all times, especially this season with a new coach, new mentality, new dawn, new world, and playing Denver, who aren't very good. Nakua we saw last season again in what should be quite an offensive game in Detroit. Saquon, if he can stay fit and stay used, could be a fantastic addition, to be quite frank, in that Philly team who somehow, I do not know how they do it, because they, in fairness, have one of the best GMs in the league, but they have turned out with offensive weapons all over the place in that team. That team is a joke, in the best possible way, of course. I don't like Samir White. I don't like Las Vegas's outlook at all, and he could be quite easily erased. They're playing the Chargers. I think that will be okay this week, and I think George Pickens will benefit from having a competent quarterback for the first time in his career at the pros. Will the 49ers D beat Aaron Rodgers up, or Aaron Rodgers come back to the Bay Area and beat them up? That's going to be the narrative. I think it's probably going to be the former. I think this game is again much closer than we think. But again, it all hinges on whether which quarterback will be worse than each other. We're waiting for the Cowboys implosion because it's there. It could happen. It could happen this week against Cleveland. It's not a great place for them to go for week one. Both of those quarterbacks have question marks over them, but I like the skill positions pretty much equally. But I've got to back my team, man. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean your team as well, but it's a tough one for me because both teams have some interesting dynamics going on. Like you said, you've got the whole Brazil thing with Jordan Love. Chase, hasn't practiced yet this week. There haven't been any official ministry. Supposedly, the reports say he is in uniform today. Whether he actually practices or not is the question. Today is an important day typically in the NFL practice schedule because it's where you install the game plan and things like that. So, but he's obviously not been practicing again, so he sort of falls into the category of guys that could have slow starts. But it's Jamar Chase, and as you say, I mean, New England aren't as much of a pushover on defense. They're going to get worn down because the offense is going to be so bad. Christian Gonzalez is back and healthy, and he was a damn good corner when he was playing last year. But again, it's not going to be enough to slow Chase down if he's out there and playing. Gibbs should be, like I said, fully healthy. You may need a kicker, though, because I just was checking out that questionable on Gay. Apparently, he suffered a hernia injury, and he's not practicing today either. So just one to look at.
He's not playing. If you've got a sports hernia on a Wednesday, you're not playing on a Saturday.
Yeah, well, he suffered the injury a couple of weeks ago, apparently, and allegedly doesn't require surgery, but yeah, odd. Anyway, but like your team sets up okay. We go to Ixan, and yeah, we'll obviously see what Prescott does. I'm not as pessimistic on the Cowboys as you are this season, and that's not to say Cleveland isn't a tough place to go week one, but I think they could still be okay. Nakua, he is going to be an interesting one to look at because I think it's a bursa sac injury he's had with his knee. And supposedly he's going to be okay and playing things, so we'll see. Barkley, he'll be fine. It's another case of one of these guys in a new team. But it's the bottom two there that you hit on, White and Pickens. I have absolutely no idea what they're going to deliver in week 1. For the season, I think they could be reasonable. Zamir White could be a volume play for the season, filling the boots of Josh Jacobs, but doesn't necessarily profile to be a good offensive. Pickens, you say should benefit from improved quarterback play, and I say, are you sure about the improved quarterback play? Because the preseason has been a disaster for the Steelers. Arthur Smith loves to run the ball, we know, and then criminally misuse his receiving targets, like we saw with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So I'm not as confident George Pickens is going to be good. It's another one of these cases of a Jefferson playing with the Sam Darnold. He's a good receiver, but I'm not sure he can. If anything, I think it would be better potentially if Justin Fields were playing, because he supported DJ Moore last year. He didn't play well generally, but he supported a receiver, whereas Russell Wilson is. You think he's going to be better than he was in Denver, but we just don't. We just have to wait and see. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. But yeah, again, it goes back to what's a bit more consistent and bankable. I'd lean your team. Your team does have questions as well, but yeah, I like his side slightly more. Otherwise, injury-wise, beyond that, obviously we mentioned the Browns been ruled out already, but yeah, nothing else to mention there. So we will go to our last game of the week, which features Great Scott and Ren Kitchens. The debutant of last year, Great Scott, coming off a Corona Bowl appearance in their first year, takes on Ren Kitchens, with a new team name. Harrison Butker's inspired side is going to win this one according to the projections, 93-85. Looking down the lineups, let's start on Ren Kitchen's side of the board. I believe it's not as it drafted, actually. He's chucked a couple of late round running backs in Chuba Hubbard and Jerome Ford over who would have drafted Malik Neighbors and Terry McLaurin way ahead of those guys. So he's going with 30 personnel, and indeed Rashee Rice was McLaurin was behind ahead of him. So he's going with 30 personnel this week, 3 running backs, 2 receivers on the other side of the board for Great Scott. He, I believe, is going as it was drafted. He is going with 30 personnel, 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. Let's see here. You are gold are. Where is Great Scott here? 1-1 there. So it's a split series for this one. This is even more bold than it would have been for Tom benching Kelsey. I get why he's thrown in Hubbard and Ford, because they profiled to be the lead backs, and I get why you especially would bench like a Neighbours in week 1. McLaurin is maybe the one I'm a little more dubious on, but I'll let you go through it, Chris.
Yes, I am too. I think that McLaurin's value is based on the fact that no one knows what Washington's going to be like. Let's go through it. So, Jalen Hurts in Brazil. I think if there's a quarterback that might exude the Brazilian way of playing, it might be Jalen Hurts. He is the Samba quarterback. There we go. If anyone's out there and wants to use that one, who's a bit further up the chain than us, then you can use that one, because I think he is the Samba quarterback. He's exciting. And I think that that weirdness could just rub off on somebody like that who's there just for the flair. But then we go down the list. So Drake London and Rashee Rice. Drake London. Let's hope that Kirk Cousins is parachuting into from one quite frankly average franchise to another quite average franchise, turns Drake London into Justin Jefferson. Because you never know.
I think Drake London's a good receiver. And what he's been playing with Mariota and Desmond Ridder, and even if it's not Kirk Cousins of what it has been, which for a 36-year-old coming off an Achilles tear would surprise no one, but I still think it's an improvement. So, and especially with an offensive staff, because they're out of the the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan tree. I can't remember who it is, but it should be better. Like you say, it might not get to the Justin Jefferson levels, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't better for Drake London.
I think it's going to be certainly a better situation. I think Rashee Rice has an ideal situation, especially as there really isn't anyone like him on that team. Christian McCaffrey. Well, we keep saying every year, it's very difficult to replicate the year previous for Christian McCaffrey, but he is in probably the best fit of any offense that he could fit into in the league. So this team is made for him, and he's made for this team.
Yep.
And when that happens, fireworks happen. So I don't think that he's going to slow down. And then yes, the two backs at the end. Chuba, you're right. We've seen him come in to great effect over the last few years, and been okay. And Jerome Ford might get blown up versus Dallas. I think that game profiles to be very defensive, and it's difficult for a week one running back like Jerome Ford to get going against that lot.
Mm-hmm.
But that is what it is. I do like the Bears D against Tennessee as well, because I think there's going to be picks galore in that game from both quarterbacks, but mostly from Will Levis. So we're going to see certainly an interesting quarterback matchup just in real life against with the Bears and Tennessee, because who knows what Caleb's going to be like as well. For Jeff, who I think won't hate me for saying that he was last year's surprise package, because he did come out of nowhere in the end.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, a rotten start, but a bloody good end.
Yeah.
He was versus Green Bay in Brazil. We start at the bottom there with the defense. I think that in usual weeks I would back them, especially at home, but in Brazil, with Green Bay having the offensive weapons that they do, I think that's probably going to be a downer on that one, and certainly won't be as good as the Bears. I love the running back trio, because for me there's all upside there in Hall, Pacheco, and Javonte. I think Javonte's value might be a little bit down, but then again, he could be a very good safety blanket there for Bo Nix for most of the season. And then Evans and Cup, the epitome of solid in fantasy football. Just the epitome. I mean, Evans, we know, is just flies under the radar, goes for his 1,000+ yards every year. And in that game, I think, it won't be any different. Cooper Kupp's coming back off an injury, grant you, but again, Nakua shined last season, but we can't forget the season previous to that, Kupp was in the first round. So let's be frank, the quality's still there. It's just how he's used. But against Detroit, I think that favours well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not ideal for Kyler against Buffalo away, first game of the season. But he's in better shape, albeit Jonathan Gannon is weird. Just going to put it out there now. He's a weird dude.
Weird dude, good coach.
But if he's a weird dude and a good coach, he could be the best situation that Kyler's been in for his entire career in the league. Then I really hope that he turns back into that cheat code that we saw 3 or 4 seasons ago, especially with a few more weapons around him. But again, we have to assume that might not be the case in that first game. So, with that being said, I think OGB has put together a solid team. That first 4 is enviable.
Mm-hmm.
In Hurts, London, Rice, and McCaffrey. I think chucking a few wild cards in week 1 ain't going to hurt. I think the Bears D will do well. On the other side, Jeff's team is going to be extremely workmanlike and extremely solid, and most weeks will be very difficult to beat, especially with everything that I see there. But I think this week, perhaps the quarterback score might be the difference. I'm going to lock OGB. Ooh. And I'm going to go for them.
There you go. I need to get the lock jingle. I was not prepared, but I should have been, because you had not used your lock yet. So of course you would Of course you would lose your lock, and there it is. There you go. So you have locked. See our locks.
Do not write Jeff's team off. do that right
No,
now.
well,
because
and
I like,
quite. I'm picking Jeff's team, so I'm going the other way here. But it's going to be a competitive game. I think I skipped the projection for this one as well, 93 to 84. I may not have done. I can't remember. Anyway, I mean, like you say, great Scott. I just looked down again. It's solid. Javonte Williams is the only one I don't really like because I'm not convinced. They're going to run it a lot, probably. He might be the lead guy, but I think they're going to rotate a lot. I think Jamil McLaughlin probably is the most talented back on the team. And Javonte, at one point in the offseason, seemed like he could have been cut. So, I don't know, it's a weird one. But all the other guys there are just, like you say, solid as they come. And Murray, he's got such a bad defense. I think you're already hit on some of these points, so I won't repeat it too much. So a lot of Kyler Murray's value this year was not just projected from being another year removed from the ACL injury, getting Marvin Harrison Jr. It was because his defense is absolute garbage, even though Gannon is a good coach. That he's just going to be passing and having to play catch-up mode the whole time, which is good for fantasy. So, Brandon Kitchens, it's going to be solid look he is. It'll be interesting to see with Barkley there and Jason Kelsey gone, do they do the brotherly shove as much as they have done? But he's still going to be good beyond that. And outside of McCaffrey, I don't know. I don't know. They're good players, and it's a good team, top to bottom. I think Hubbard and Ford could just get some empty yards this week. They could get a touchdown, but I don't think it's guaranteed. And then I'm not sure London and Rice are good enough to offset that against the opposition. So for me, that leads me to believe Bright Scott, but it's certainly hard to pick anyone against anyone who's got McCaffrey because he is almost like two players, if not three, in one in certain weeks.
And Hurts in that matchup away. I think that's the key thing for me. I think it's a huge opportunity for him.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of the previews then. So obviously, we have the first game tomorrow night, and then don't forget there is the Friday night game as well, the game in Brazil, and then we have the Sunday slate. So as I mentioned on the WhatsApp group, you are welcome to come and watch the games at mine if you are around and would like to do so. But that is it for this episode of the LOC Report. We'll probably be back. Friday is going to try and be our normal podcast day, but we will be back at some point next week to do a more condensed recap, but obviously do the previews as normal. Thank you for joining again, Chris, for another season.
Welcome. Absolutely brilliant to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. So best of luck in your matchups this weekend, everybody, unless you're playing me, of course. Goodbye.
Goodbye.